Is stamp duty ruining the British housing market? Today I'm joined by Toby Leek, who is the president of Propertymark National Association of Estate Agents. Thanks for joining me today, Toby. Toby, what's your personal opinion on stamp duty and how it affects the British property market?
I think the whole thing needs to be reviewed and looked at. I do feel it has this unfortunate ability of sort of just stagnating the market and slowing it down and potentially stopping transactions and people moving. I think the whole thing needs to be reviewed and looked at and thought about.
I mean, you would say that because you're in London and the vast majority of the 10 or 11 billion that gets raised every year is falling on your shoulders because they're too bloody expensive in London.
Well, I would, and that's first hand from speaking from clients. I mean, clients have said to me that I'd move if it didn't cost me this much. And so first hand experience with people saying that this stamp duty but it's costing me so much that I don't want to move. So actually, I've got first hand experience of people saying that they don't want to move. But that...
Do you think they're using it as an excuse? I mean, mature generation use that as an excuse to not to move.
No, I don't think so. Perhaps there are some people that use it as an excuse, but I don't think all the time.
Move to the Cotswolds, it's cheaper there.
It is, but, well, I don't know if it's probably similar sort of price, but I think, it's a big ask. Well, if you've got family connections, if you've got work or school or whatever it is, even if you're a mature generation and perhaps you've retired and you don't have school so much.
All right, so where are you going to replace this 10 or 11 billion pounds from then?
Well, this is the thing. I don't have the golden bullet, but I think it needs to be reviewed. Is it the fact, do we look at sort of the downsizers and say, okay, well, let's look at those people that are selling and look at sort of charging them the stamp duty? Do we look at, I know there's been some thoughts of tying it in with council tax. Do we look at land value? Another option. So there's three potential options there that could be looked at, whether it's a sort of individual element or whether it is a collective of those. I do feel that something needs to be done. When we looked at Propertymark were lobbying during COVID, where we had that the holiday on stamp duty, you saw the difference that it made there with the flurry in the market. And actually right now, you see that with
that would have happened without stamp duty, mate. Come on.
I don't think to the degree that it did. I think it makes a big difference.
Okay.
And people,
because people were almost paying 10% over the odds because they were saving 2 or 3% on the purchase price. Well, doesn't make sense.
I think it does. I think the transactions then start going, and then the market gets going, and then all of a sudden, you got from the bottom of the market working it all the way up, and it gets people moving. It's more fluid then. See, if that had continued, then arguably perhaps that huge surge wouldn't have been as much. But the idea there that it changes and it makes it more transactional, the numbers increase and a lot more people are moving, suggests that having it is clawing people back from moving as often. People might move more often if it wasn't as expensive rather than however many years each time.
But of course you'd say that because you're an estate agent.
I am indeed.
And you only get paid when people move.
Yeah, on transactions. There, of course, but I do feel like actually outside of estate agency, it would be a huge benefit for the wider economy and the country.
You mean for London and the South East?
I think the country in general.
Okay, well, let's see. Please put your comments either in the YouTube or on social media whether you agree or disagree with Toby. Thank you for your time today.